the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special, composing the soundtrack to Gears Tactics. This is Tim Albright with AVNation, with an AVNation special. This is kind of a continuation of our looks at the audio and the audio production behind certain pieces of entertainment. And today we're going to talk about Gears Tactics. With us to talk about the audio and production and the composing of that music is Mr. Edward Patrick White. Welcome, sir.
Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Gear Tactics, if I can say it correctly, Gear Tactics came out this year, this past April. It is a continuation of Gears of War, AAA rated, award-winning video game from a number of years ago. But this is a continuation of that, right? One of the aspects, though, of this is when you started going into this, you knew in advance that not only you're going to be composing it, but you're also going to be mixing the game. What does that do as not just the composer, but also a sound designer going, okay, you know what? I'm not only making the music, but I'm also going to be the one mixing it. How does that change?
I think it's a real benefit. For me, one of the things that I spent a lot of time thinking about was the musical arrangements. And I did that almost using my mixer's ear. So thinking very much about what the other sound in the game was going to be doing. It's Gears, it's bombastic, there are explosions, there's screaming and gunfire and all of the rest of it. So there's a certain requirement that you're going to be writing around those elements, and then also thinking about how you're going to get your music mix to pop against what's quite a bombastic soundtrack already.
I love the word bombastic, by the way. That's actually a really good explanation of games like this and Gears of War specifically. And I have not played Gears Tactics. I'll be very honest. I have played Gears of War more than I should probably admit as a 40-some-odd-year-old guy. But it gets you in there, right? It's part of the entertainment value of a video game is the energy that the music brings along. When you look at a game like this, right, what do you draw on to create that excitement?
Well, the franchise has very clear, you touched on this, the franchise has very clear expectations for what the music will be doing. And in that sense, I was quite fortunate because I wasn't, having to invent the wheel. The legacy music of the franchise sort of laid a very good template for me. That said, our game is a bit of a departure from what Gears normally does. Gears is normally a third-person cover-based shooter. Our game is a bit of a departure. It's a prequel in the storyline, and for the first time, what we have is a top-down tactics, turn-based game. So it was very important that we still felt like an authentic. It was very important that we felt like an authentic Gears game. So in that sense, there were good kind of things to refer to. So I knew that I was going to have these big orchestral sounds. I knew that I was going to have some big percussion stuff going on. And I knew that there was also going to be a requirement to be inventive with the sort of the musical sound design.
So let's talk about that for a second. And the when we're doing some of the research on this, some of the pieces that we've read about is a term called feathering in different elements with different instruments at certain times.
Yes.
When you hear the word feathering when it comes to audio and audio mixing, what does that mean to you?
Well, so for example, our score is entirely in the box, pretty much. I've played, some guitar on it, I played some bass on it, and I'm a big fan of grabbing whoever will happen to be passing my room at the time, and sometimes my daughter would be bringing me a snack or something, and I would get her in and get her to sing some things and design those. But when I think of feathering in, I think of maybe I'm using, some cellos, I'm writing a cello line, and it's just not got enough of a nose on the sound. So for example, I might then hunt out a solo cello library or something where it's got a particular type of attack at the front of the note, and I would then feather, to use that phrase, I would then feather that sound in to give me more of a nose on my cellos overall. So it becomes about curating your sample library to make sure that you are creating definition where you want it.
One of the aspects of this that when you guys created this was creating a 5.1 surround sound audio experience. I want you to, if you could please, talk for a second about the various platforms or tools that you guys have as mixers and engineers in your chest today to take a look at a game and go, you know what, this is what we want to do for this, because you have traditional surround sound, right? You got 5.1, you get 7.1, 7.2, and now the emergence of Dolby Atmos over the last 3 or 4 years, where not only it's not just surround sound, right? The 7.1, 7.2, you've got a fully immersive platform that you could, if the game or if the piece requires it, when you go into the studio, you even start down this road. What are some of the kind of the check boxes that you need to check off and go, okay, this takes me down this road, this takes me down the 5.1 road, or this piece or this game absolutely has to be Atmos? What are some of the considerations when you make those decisions?
Well, so I mean, again, we looked at what the franchise was doing with Gears 4 and 5 and what the legacy games did, and then also we took into account the fact that we're a strategy game. We're not a third-person shooter, so the decision was made fairly early on, and we spoke with Dolby about doing Atmos, and it just for this particular project wasn't quite as appropriate. And I think one of the reasons for that was the top-down perspective on things meant that you're already up in the air, so the height information seems somewhat redundant because you're already there looking downwards. So that's a focal point there, and the real benefit of Dolby Atmos is really getting that height information and I guess the extra channels for movement. And our camera doesn't move quite as much as it would do, for example, in a third-person shooter. So we decided that for us, surround was an appropriate format. So 5.1, and the tools that you're going to use, sometimes the tools have been built with 5.1 or other surround formats in mind, and other times you're going to be taking sounds that have not been at all thought of, particularly with musical samples and things like that. Not all of the libraries provide you with the sound with your rears with your rear sound to give you that kind of three-dimensional space. So, for example, I used Halo Upmix by Nugent quite a lot to build essentially my surrounds, because I didn't necessarily have them with the particular sample library that I wanted to feather in at a given moment.
Absolutely. We were talking with Edward Patrick White, composer and the mixer for Gears Tactics. Gears Tactics came out this past April. Edward, I want to walk me through, if you would, getting into the mixing part, right? And talk for a second about, when you sit down at your studio, what are your tools? What are the things that you absolutely have to have at your desk, at your console, when you start, piecing this together? What, is it a specific board, or is it the type of board that you need? Is it specific software, or just the type of software you need? What is it in your tool chest that you absolutely have to have?
So for me, Pro Tools Ultimate is kind of one of those things that I couldn't live without. And yet, having said that, most of the music was written in Logic. So my methodology of creating the music was that as I'm sequencing in Logic, I'm sequencing knowing that I'm going to be producing surround assets in Logic that I'm then going to be bringing into Pro Tools to mix with. So, I mean, those two pieces of software, as I said before, Halo Upmix is one of those things where once they created that piece of software, you sort of wonder how we did it before, having to set up, discrete delays going to the surrounds and all of that sort of thing. It's a wonderful tool to have. And you'd have to prize that out of my hands, I think. What else? I mean, I love the UAD stuff. I think one of the most important things when you're working with samples and you're mixing with samples, is to have good quality tape saturation. And of course, I wasn't going to run everything off onto, real tape. The time wasn't there to do it. And the level of iteration that's required on the video game also means that you're going to be revisiting things and replacing things on a fairly regular basis. So for me, the UAD tape saturation plugins were also really important, the Ampex particularly.
That's fascinating to me that you're still even considering real tape in today's day and age. Is that something just because of the fullness and the richness of the medium that you will still from time to time bring that out?
Absolutely. I mean, if in terms of getting real tape out, no. In terms of seeking out a very bona fide, authentic sounding tape saturation, yes, because for me, to my ear, however well the sample library has been recorded, it always benefits from tape saturation, particularly brass. The great soundtracks that we know and love, the John Williams stuff, the really sort of symphonic scores, were all recorded to tape, and there's a wonderful quality that you get when when brass hits tape quite hard. And so for me, it was very important to try and replicate that, even though I'm doing it in the box.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Edward Patrick White, thank you so much. If somebody wants to get a hold of you or learn more about your mixing or find out more about Gear Tactics, how do they do that?
I am very easy to find. Just type my name, Edward Patrick White, into Google, and I come straight up.
Thanks so much, Patrick. For AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. While you're there, check out our newsletters. We'll give you the latest, greatest news straight to your inbox. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.